Hello everyone, and welcome to the next installment of Lazuli Plays the Pikmin series. Last time, we went through the original Pikmin, which was a launch window GameCube title, and it showed, for better or for worse. Welcome to Pikmin 2. It was a very highly anticipated sequel for its time, okay? A 3-year-long wait between Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2. And you might be wondering, how does Pikmin 2 manage to be better? Or, that's not the right word. What does Pikmin 2 do to make itself stand out from the original while also kind of being an improvement? Well, you won't find out until we dive right in here. And without further ado, let's begin the Let's Play on my favorite Pikmin game of all time. And we actually start with an opening cutscene. I know what you might be thinking. We had an opening cutscene in the original Pikmin. Did it have dialogue and subtitles in the bottom? No, it did not. Now, don't expect any voice acting. At least not any full voice acting. Of course, there are voice clips and grunts, which is kind of the norm for Nintendo in terms of voice acting. They usually don't have the full treatment. They usually settle for some sort of partial treatment. Like, wahoo, waha, it's a me, Mario. You know, that sort of thing, but this ain't one of those situations. This isn't exactly a series where I think the voice acting would be mandatory anyway. Because the series of games speak for themselves, really. At any rate, Olimar is finally able to go back to Hakatate and back to his old work grounds. Hakatate Freight. President of Hakatate Freight and local employee Louie. Louie. I don't know that song that well, but I know it's a song. Oliver, I'm so glad you're safe. Yes, very glad. Quite glad. Sadly, I have an announcement that is not so glad. Our company is going under. Yes, we're finished, you see. On his first mission, Louis here met a ravenous space bunny. This entire load of golden Pikmin brand carrots was eaten. Were eaten? I don't know. I took out an enormous loan to repay the debt from this loss. I decided to sell off corporate assets to repay the loan. And somehow he was able to sell off Olimar's ship while Olimar wasn't there. But the only asset we had to sell was your ship, the SS Dolphin. As for the rest of our loan, well, 10,100 Bocos. We have no means to repay it. Ah, but Olimar seems to have brought a souvenir from his time on the Pikmin planet, which we don't really have a name for right now. Olimar, what is that? You brought that back as a souvenir for your kid? Oh, Roger. Money. Oh yeah, the ship speaks too. Initiating valuation of recovered treasure. This artifact is worth 100 Bocos. This thing's worth 100 Bocos. That's more than a year's salary. Oh, gravy! What? There are more on that planet. They can repay our debt. Wow! Louis, you don't look alive. You must depart immediately with Captain Olimar. Yes. And thus the president of Hakatate Freight sends Olimar and new pal for us, the player, Louis, back to the Pikmin planet that Olimar literally just came back from. And well, there's going to be some changes. Because even though it probably wasn't a lot of time that passed between Pikmin 1 and 2 in universe, the games were 3 years apart. So Pikmin 2 is able to take advantage of more experienced developers and development resources on the GameCube. So the game is going to look a little better than the original Pikmin in most areas. It's also going to run a little bit better too. And we're not going to have any random Pikmin deaths. And if we are, well, let's just say that Pikmin 2 is both more adverse to Pikmin and more friendly to those of us that want to do a deathless Pikmin run. Now, am I going to commit to a deathless run of Pikmin 2? Wait and see. There, that was close. I have averted a crash landing. Running diagnostics. Alert! Danger! Louis is missing. He must have somehow fallen out of his cockpit. He is not responding via his communicator. He is either flouting protocol, or in danger. Olima, you must find Louis before he freezes to death in the code of this planet. Wait a moment. Look. Beep, 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 beep. Ah, there's our old friend, the red Pikmin. Could these be Pikmin? They look like they are about to be devoured as we speak. Beep, beep. You must help them quickly. Call them with your whistle, Captain Olima. Beep, beep, beep. You can also hold beep to make the sound carry further. Remember? Yes, beep. It's also possible that there are people that their first Pikmin game was too. It's possible, because 2004 was a very good year for GameCube. Wouldn't be surprised if, like, most people got into the system that year, and they just got into a bunch of great games. I'm not even exaggerating. The Pikmin ran to your side. They seem to remember you, Captain Olima. How fascinating. Give them instructions, and do not delay. Hold 8 to grab a Pikmin, and release to throw. Oh, it's going to be so good to have that function back when that becomes relevant. Of course, the easy way to kill the Bulborb is to throw Pikmin onto its back, but with 5 red Pikmin and a captain to punch the Bulborb right alongside the Pikmin, it's pretty easy to kill it through normal means. I think this dwarf Bulborb is also coded to not be able to eat Pikmin, which would make sense, because we are actually technically in the tutorial right now. Attention, Captain Olima. I have just re-established my communications link with Louis. It is fortunate we have managed to confirm his safety. Press Y to communicate with him. Beep, beep. I'm quite interested in the details of his condition. Beep. Let's just push the Y button then. And there we go. We're swapping over to Louis, that's right. In Pikmin 2, I would argue the biggest change. We are now able to control 2 captains at a time. Well, not exactly at the same time, but you can have 2 captains in the level, kind of in sync with one another. You have to alternate between them because they won't move unless you, the player, are controlling them. But this makes multitasking a lot easier compared to the original Pikmin, where multitasking was basically just Olimar leaving certain Pikmin to their devices and hope that there are no enemies or other threats nearby in order to, pose a threat. So if there are no threats near the workspace for the Pikmin, then yes, you can multitask in the original Pikmin. It's a little weird. But the addition of a second captain, in this case, let me swim back. I was trying to mess with the camera. There we go. Take a good old look at Louis here. So, a little bit more of a dopish kind of design compared to Olimar, for sure. So Olimar's name is supposed to be a reference to Mario. I can't remember exactly in what way. I think it's like his Japanese name backwards is the Japanese name for Mario. I think there's a similar situation with Louis and Luigi. However, I am not 100% sure about that. Please do not quote me on that. It's just the thing that I've been hearing for years since I started playing Pikmin 2 specifically. At any rate, Olimar was able to find some Pikmin already out and about, but Louis is the one that's introduced to the Onion, which does make sense in the narrative of Pikmin 2 because Olimar is already familiar with the Pikmin and all of the stuff they're associated with. Louis is not, however. Which is going to be kind of funny for Louis because the Pikmin will remind him of a certain food item that he just adores to a reckless point. The seed the onion ejected just sprouted. According to Olimar's report, it can be plucked with A. Hey, you can pluck at the Pikmin like that. But, yeah, there's no timer for the first day, just like in the original Pikmin. But, another change. There is no time limit in Pikmin 2, per se. I mean, if you're speedrunning, yeah, there is kind of a time limit now, isn't there? But if you're just playing the game from beginning to end, this is the only mainline Pikmin game that doesn't have a time limit that forces you, quote unquote, big quotation there, because if you know what you're doing, it won't really feel like much of a force, especially in a Pikmin 3. That's the point. Now I'm jumping the gun a bit ahead here. You can use C to issue objectives to your Pikmin squad. That's arguably my favorite thing about the GameCube version of these games compared to the Wii versions. Swarming is definitely a bit easier to do, easier to comprehend on GameCube. And yes, we are doing the GameCube version of Pikmin 2 for the Let's Play. I was thinking about maybe doing the Wii version as a transitional thing, like, oh, we'll go from GameCube to Wii to Switch / Wii U. But I'd rather just stick with the GameCube versions, the original releases for this, and to be a little consistent. And because there are some aspects of the GameCube controls I do like more than the Wii controls. However, the Wii control scheme is still really good. I can admit that, even if I have my biases and preferences. Wii versions of Pikmin 1 and 2, still very good. If you get those, and they're cheaper than the GameCube versions physically, by all means, go for it. In fact, I'd recommend the Wii versions over the GameCube versions anyway. If you're new and getting into the series, why not, you know? You're not going to have the GameCube bias like me and other Pikmin fans may or may not have, you know? That's the point. I do want to take the time to say that the differences between the GameCube and Wii version of Pikmin 2 are not as much as the differences between GameCube and Wii version of Pikmin 1. There is one other thing that is unique to Pikmin 2 on Wii than GameCube, but that isn't necessarily because of the version conversion itself. It's more so something that's part of the system. And I'll explain that when it becomes relevant. It might not be relevant for a while, though. And it ties into being able to do a deathless run of Pikmin 2. Which I'm not going to promise that I'm going to do. I'm going to try. I can promise that I'll try. But I cannot promise that I can go this entire game without losing a single Pikmin. To my sanity, as it were. But I can try. Because it's definitely... It's easier and harder than the original Pikmin at the same time. It's really weird. And it also depends on how you go about it. What you're okay with and what you may not be okay with. You know, it's one of those kind of situations. So since this is like the original first day in Pikmin, you can take advantage of the lack of a time limit for the day, I should say. There is a time limit for per day in Pikmin 2, but I mean there isn't a 30-day time limit like in the original. You can go to day 30 in Pikmin 2 and you're not going to get a game over. You might get a game over another way though, but that is besides the point. So there is an incentive to leave the Pikmin here as leaves to sprout into flowers, but I don't want to keep you guys too much, so let's grab 5. I think we're going to be good with 5, and let's head on over here. Look at that. This looks like a... Is that a Duracell battery? Huh. That's a pretty good brand of battery in my experience, actually. Maybe a little overhyped, but pretty good. Perhaps this object is one of the treasures that we are searching for. Beep boop. The only reason we found it here is because this is where you crash landed. How fortunate. I would like to appraise it, but you must regroup with Olima first. Can you see him? Beep beep. Press L to move the camera behind you. R to zoom, and Z to change angles. Oh good, I needed that refresher. Anyway, yeah, so the goal of Pikmin 1 was to collect ship parts. The goal of Pikmin 2 is to collect treasure. Otherwise, your company goes into debt, goes bankrupt, and you lose your job. Well, I guess that's kind of relatable. Ah, we need 15 red Pikmin to get the bag to go down, huh? One of those situations. Although I'm wondering if... Oh, you can't whistle Louie's Pikmin in this segment. Maybe it's because of that branch that's in the way. Alright. I guess we'll put our 5 red Pikmin on the dwarf billboard for no particular reason. They're gonna get stopped. I'm just saying, they're gonna get stopped, so... Yeah, we can definitely take advantage of the time to let the Pikmin that are there... We'll at least get them to the bud, since, you know, you're not gonna see too many of those. But, yeah, it shouldn't take too terribly long. Kind of overestimated how long it took to get Pikmin flowered up this way in the original Pikmin. I thought it took like 5 minutes. Oh. Well, spoke too soon there, but it's only 2 of them. I think the plucking mechanics in Pikmin 2 are slightly better than Pikmin 1. Obviously, a lot of things in Pikmin 2 are just... If it was in Pikmin 1 and it's in Pikmin 2, it's probably got a touch-up in some form or fashion. You know, which is a good thing. Very good thing. So let's try and get the buds. Alright, here we go. Yeah, I don't really feel like waiting for flowers. I mean, we're going to see a lot of flowers through the rest of the playthrough, for sure. So, I think it's kind of cool to wait for buds in the first tutorial day of Pikmin 1 or 2, to be honest. If you're wondering if Pikmin 3 has a similar approach to tutorial, you'll have to wait and see. Or, you know, you could just watch a long play or something. But I'm just going to say that it's not quite exactly the same. I'll say that much. Alright, I guess they can't fool around on the Bulbor because they gotta help Louie's Red Pikmin platoon get the paper bag down. And now the captains are reunited. Olimar's excited, but Louie has no discernible reaction. Alright then. Captain, Olimar, Louie, you are reunited at last. Beep beep, this has been a troublesome start to our trip. But now you must feel assured that your combined wits can get you through anything. Correct. From now on, use B to form a single group, X to take solo action, and Y to change leaders. Yeah, that's pretty helpful. So we're going to have Olimar in charge. There isn't really much of a point to trying the multitask right now once the captains are reunited during this tutorial day. And the maximum amount of Pikmin you can get is 20 instead of 25. So basically, when we get the Dwarf Bulborb back to the Red Onion, we're just going to grab the Sprout, and then we're going to have these Pikmin get that battery, and that's going to end the tutorial day for Pikmin 2. But, unlike the original, we're actually not going to go to a new location right away. We're actually going to have to come back here for day 2, where we're going to have a time limit again, but it's not really going to be a big deal. Because you're going to be able to do everything you need to do, and then some, and probably only pass like half of the day timer. I'm going to tell you guys this right now. When you play Pikmin 2, don't worry about the day-to-day timer unless you're trying to speedrun and or trying to beat the game in a minimum amount of days. Because I will let you know this now. Pikmin 2's primary focus is not the overworld. What do I mean by that? Well, you're actually going to find out in this episode, because this episode is going to continue until we are completely done with our business in this new location. Actually, I think we already got the name of it. It's actually the Valley of Repose, which is a snow-themed area. Something totally new for the series. And is a returning element in later Pikmin games. I can say that much. So we've got a few buds, we got a bunch of leaves. They should be able to get this Duracell battery back to... Oh man, I can't even remember the name of the ship for Pikmin 2. I know the original one is the Dolphin, and the 1 and 3 is called the SS... I think it's the SS Drake. This ship, the name is escaping me. It's the Hopitate Freight Ship, I guess. God, that... Yeah. An advantage of getting the flowers is that this battery would get down here a lot quicker, but I'm sure if you're familiar with the original Pikmin, you'll know we'll eventually have access to nectar, and that's going to be helpful, of course. Nothing up there for now, but we might be able to find something up there in the next, in day 2. Yeah. So, I guess the reason why they limit you to 20 instead of 25 is because the tutorial is actually kind of a 2-act thing in Pikmin 2, which makes sense. You go from 1 to 2, and then maybe you go to 3 in Pikmin 3. I'll have to wait and see on that one. We're going to be playing Pikmin 2 for a while, by the way. This game is a lot bigger than the original, for better or for worse. You don't have a time limit, so they're going to give you things to do. Believe you me, they are going to give you things to do. Alright, our first treasure. the Duracell battery, which is going to get renamed, of course, to the Courage Reactor, worth 280 out of 10,000 Pokos. That's a pretty good start, all things considered. Our first day of exploration has yielded our first treasure! We will be done in record time. I took the liberty of naming it when I appraised it. The name reflects my current thinking. Leave it to me to think up catchy names for hit products. It is but one of my many talents. Beep, beep. We shall end our first day here and report back to our president. His face will surely be joyous. Beep, beep. However, to communicate with Hocotate, we must fly into low orbit above the planet E. We will not return to the surface until morning so as to avoid the indigenous nocturnal creatures. Beep. So, still gotta do that. Can we skip the cutscenes in Pikmin 2? Ooh, it looks like we can. My bad, I probably should have left it playing since the first time. We'll let this one play out, though, and I'll remember not to skip it when we end day 2 on the Valley for Post. Don't worry. It's all gonna be one episode. It's not gonna be split. Hopefully it's not too far over an hour. We're gonna do that. Anyway, today's report. I'm so happy to be doing Pikmin 2, by the way, because I love this game so much. My god. Everything I loved about the original Pikmin, minus the time limit, which I'm kind of neutral on, is here. And it's just... it's mostly for the better. This game is my most replayed Pikmin game, even though it's the biggest one, funnily enough. It's just... this game is so good. I can't believe this and Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door both released in the same freaking year. Only like a month and change apart, too. You found your first bit of treasure. Fine work. Our future depends on your effort, so check your treasure hoard regularly. I'll check in often. Keep up the pace. So in Pikmin 2, we get emails instead of journal entries. However, you might be wondering, do we get something to fill in the void of the journal entries? And I am happy to report we do. By pushing the L button, we get access to a very neat side feature of Pikmin 2. One that some people would argue is their favorite part of Pikmin 2. It's not the reason I like this game, but it is something really neat. So let's check out Olimar's notes on the Dwarf Red Bulbor. By the way, you can push the A button and toss Pikmin carrots. You can see the enemies interact and everything. It's pretty neat. Dwarf Red Bulbor. Pancerus Fasciculale Russus Redbug family. Although initially identified as a juvenile red bulbor, groundbreaking new research indicates that this creature is in fact a member of the breadbug family. A close relative of the vanilla breadbug, it escapes predation through mimicry. Unique adaptation of the red bulbor's crimson coloration allows the species to safely commingle. Such effective adaptation and obfuscation by a prey species is rare, indicating this clever creature is a master of mimicry. And there's also an entry for the pellet posy. It's not an enemy, it's something you collect pellets from. Pellet posy, Aplis nutrio, pellet weed family. In the stem of the pellet posy, one can observe the muscle fiber unique to half-plant, half-animal species such as the Pikmin and candy pot flowers. So the pellet posy is a species that can be considered a close relative. Although the ability to crystallize nectar is unique to a small group of the pellet weed family, the fact that these plants reach maturity so quickly and that their pellets contain such high concentrations of the natural nutrients in the soil explains why the Pikmin and so many of the other indigenous species are so reliant on these pellets for sustenance. And that's all we have for now. If we push the R button, we can look at the treasure hoard instead. Olimar's journal on that. How about that? We've recovered our first treasure. Amazingly, the Pikmin remembered how to salvage it. I can't understand their adorable language and I don't know what they're thinking, yet I'm so happy to see them. When I crashed on the planet, the Pikmin helped me locate my missing ship parts. In my darkest hour, the Pikmin were there for me. Now that I'm reunited with them, I know everything will be alright. It will. Right? And that's all the report on the Piclopedia for now. I may check back on this later on in the playthrough, but I think that was enough of a sampler for you guys, and I encourage you to look it up on your own time, either through YouTube videos or if you play the game yourself. This game is available for GameCube, Wii, playable on Wii U if you happen to have one of those. Hopefully one day Pikmin 1 and 2 come to Switch. But for now, they're not the most inaccessible games in the world. At any rate, let's continue on now to continue our adventure in the Valley of Repose. This is another cutscene you can skip now, but I'm going to let it play because it's the first time. It's only to be fair. And yeah, Olimar and Louie. I will admit that in Pikmin 2, Louie is actually my favorite captain. However, Louie is a bit of an oddball, and you will see this throughout the playthrough, particularly towards the end of our Pikmin 2 adventure. At any rate, the Hokate freight ship will let you know about that you need to go underneath the onion to get the Pikmin out of there. Pretty good knowledge to have. Yep. And we only have 20 Pikmin, so it's not like we can do a whole lot of multitasking here, but you can whistle other captains. That's also worth noting. It's a lot faster to get Pikmin in and out of the onions in Pikmin 2 as well. It's a very nice, welcome change. Anyway, our goal for now is going to be to raise up the red Pikmin numbers a bit, because only 20 red Pikmin is not really a lot. It doesn't really leave a lot to the imagination. We can go ahead and get +4 from those poses. Actually, I'm wondering, do captains automatically pluck Pikmin if left alone? Or is that something... Okay, I think that's something they added in Pikmin 3. My bad. But, if you have a captain with you, they will speed up your plucking process, so that's still pretty good. And we're also having Louie in the lead. I don't really want to do that. I want to have Olimar in the lead from now. Oh, we got a couple of 5 posies. Wow. Okay. We can definitely work with that. Yeah, let's go ahead and grab these bad boys and send them back to the onion. Why not? 2 Pikmin on that, ideally, so they can go at max-ish speed, because they're still leaf Pikmin, but obviously if they grow to flowers, they go faster. Got a bunch of pellets over there. And is there anything over here where Louie was found? Doesn't seem like it. Maybe not now. Maybe later, though. If we have to come back to this location way later in the game. How much later? You'll just have to wait and see. Because, yeah, our business here isn't going to be done after day 2. Believe it or not. Oh, that's neat. So, yeah, the Pikmin have better AI in this game, too. You saw that 2 Pikmin were going to help out the other 2 finish off the posy. They noticed it was done. And they're like, oh, let's just go back and grab the pellet. See, I didn't even know the Pikmin 2 AI was that good. I know the Pikmin AI is really good at Pikmin 3. I didn't even notice how much better the Pikmin 2 AI is over Pikmin 1. So, wow, that was a little bit of a mini revelation there for me. Really tempting to let them wait until they get flowered, but now that we're on a day time limit, I really don't want to have to stick around here until day 3 when it's not necessary. I mean, you're not going to get punished for it, but if it's unnecessary, you know, then why? So we need to push down this other paper bag. I believe this one requires 35. That seems about right. And we're going to have some stuff to worry about on the other side. I think we're going to leave Louie here to tend to the Pikmin. Actually, no, we want Louie with us to help with plucking faster. But maybe there's something we'll find in the game that will make plucking Pikmin a lot easier. It might take a while, though. But something like that would be really neat, I have to admit. So, we're up to 42 red Pikmin now. I believe we're going to have like 50 or 60 by the time we're done with day 2 of Valley of Repose. It's also one of my favorite level names in the Pikmin series, the Valley of Repose. It's short for repossession, so when you think about it that way, it's kind of a bummer. But repose also kind of sounds like a word to say like you're resting. Like, you're reposed in your bed. Like that. It's probably not a valid definition, but hey, I can imagine, right? So let's have 1 red get the pellet, and just 3 of them get that, because, say hello to the returning Spotty Bulborb. Now renamed to Red Bulborb, I'm pretty sure. So let's try and see if we can swarm it with our red Pikmin species. Oh no! Oh no, it's a disaster. We lost 2 red Pikmin already. But we got a 5 pellet, so that kind of makes up for it. And that's going to do it. And we have a treasure. So this treasure is going to require 35 Pikmin. Oh boy. So instead of doing that, we have a wall to destroy over here. What we're going to do is we're going to put about 21 Pikmin on this, I think. Or no, we'll just do 20. Because, yeah, that's good enough. We want to get these other ones on the adult bulborb here, the red bulborb, of course. Yeah, we're just going to do that. And yeah, when you dismiss your Pikmin, you're also dismissing the captain, unfortunately. Which you probably aren't doing if you're just trying to dismiss your Pikmin. But you kind of have to deal with it. Losing 2 Pikmin there sucks. So I guess we aren't doing a deathless run. At least, not in this sense. You'll see what I mean. There are certain Pikmin that I don't want to lose in this playthrough, and there are other Pikmin that aren't as big of a deal to lose. Which was similar in the original Pikmin where you didn't really care too much if you lost yellow Pikmin, since they were the Pikmin you really needed the lowest quantity of, generally. But in this game, things are going to be different. So yeah, we're down 2 red Pikmin, but red Pikmin are, just like in the original Pikmin game, they are very easy and plentiful to come across. So if you only lose 2, you're only losing out on a perfect run. You're not really going to lose out on much else otherwise. For better or for worse, thankfully. It's a good thing it's not like that. Let me just say. And it looks like we just barely have enough. We have 36 Pikmin here, so we're going to have these guys go for the treasure, if possible. This is actually taking a little bit longer than I thought it would. I'm going to admit that much. But we have a couple of Bud Pikmin. They can hopefully get this treasure over to the landing site a bit quicker. You know, than if it was just leaves. Alright, at this point... Oh, the wall is almost taken down, actually. So... Actually, we made it here just in time. Alright, then. How could Pikmin destroy such a massive wall? When masked, their might is ferocious. Beep, beep. Louis, did Olimar instruct you on proper Pikmin commanding protocol? Apparently not. Olimar, you are failing in your duty as a superior. Allow me to explain. Yeah, just going through the controls that we more or less know, because experience with the original game, and that's all there is to that. The Hokutate Freight Ship does a lot of tutorial stuff. I guess we could put these guys on the treasure, because we do want to go... We want to get the treasure taken care of before we advance further. You'll see why. It'll make more sense then. Yeah. It certainly would be nice if we had flower Pikmin, but I have my reasons for not really caring about flowers at this point in the adventure. And for those of you that are familiar with this game, you'll know why. You will see. Oh, you will all see. Don't worry. So let's go ahead and keep on plucking here. Just get all these Pikmin out of here. It seems like 45 is the limit on the treasure, so I guess we're going to deal with that. Okay, so if we didn't lose those 2 reds, we'd actually have 70 red Pikmin. That's really good. But it still kind of feels like we have 70 because we're so close to that number, you know? Only 2 off is really not that big of a deal. I'm not going to reset for that because, yeah, why not? But, yeah, here we go. So the first treasure was the Courage Reactor, a Duracell battery. This is just an empty can, completely smushed. A can of... kind of hard to say. It could be a Japanese brand because, you know, this is a Japanese game originally. Only worth 170, so it brings us to 450 out of 10,000. The Utter Scrap. What a fitting name. Alright, now that all of our Pikmin are reunited, we can advance forward through the Valley of Repose. Because now we're going to be introduced to Pikmin 2's bread and butter. For better or for worse. Some people are not the biggest fans of this. And they are usually pretty vocal about it. And me personally, I mostly like these, actually. I don't know if they're, like, fitting for the series, but I like them as at least as a one-off thing in Pikmin 2. Interesting. Warm air is welling up from the hole in the ground before you. What could lie underground? What is wrong? You both show expressions of unease. Do not fear. The leader's group of Pikmin will join you. I shall dispatch my research pod too. Approach the hole and press A to jump in. B. So yeah, because we can't really go further because of the water. Maybe we'll need the returning blue Pikmin, or some returning blue Pikmin for that, huh? With our 68 red Pikmin and Louie, let's dive into the Emergence Cave. The first of several caves in Pikmin 2. You can also call these dungeons. And yeah, you get autosave every time you enter a new floor or sub-level of a cave. And that because of that, the Wii version has a slight edge over Pikmin over the GameCube version, not because of the game itself, but because Wii games allow you to reset a game with the Wii remote at any point, for any reason at all. GameCube, though, you gotta get up and push the reset button. So it's very silly, but the Wii version has that feature edged out over the GameCube one because of the system, not because of anything else. Intriguing. My heat sensors indicate that this hole's interior is warmer than on the surface. Analysis suggests subterranean areas may support different life forms than the surface speed. If you wish to check underground terrain, press start to communicate with me. I am not just a ship. I am an all-purpose support pod. So, yeah, the Hocotate Freight ship will continue to collect treasure even underground because it's made like that. And you don't have a time limit in the caves. Or like, a progress meter of some sort. This is the first floor, so the enemies and treasures are really easy to see and whatnot. So let's go ahead and throw Pikmin onto the backs. These are snowy Bulborbs? Or dwarf snowy Bulborbs, I think? So they're similar to the, the dwarf Bulborbs that we've been fighting. They're exactly the same, actually. Just that they have a different color. That's the only discernible difference. So, yeah. So, in a cave, if I lose any Pikmin in a cave, I will reset the floor until I don't lose any Pikmin. And this is doubly so for certain other kinds of Pikmin. You will see what I mean. So we have enough Pikmin to grab the treasure and all of the enemy carcasses with a little bit to spare, even though we lost 2. It's not that big of a deal, really. But yeah, you can actually collect enemy carcasses. You can't grow Pikmin underground, per se. But the enemy carcasses will serve a different function. So our third treasure is going to be a 7-Up bottle cap, the Quenching Emblem, worth 100. So 550 out of 10,000. But we're not quite done yet. Because there's also this. And man, the ship does not agree with this. How can you possibly consider this beast a treasure? Beasts are incompatible with my circuitry. I suppose I will store your finds in my hold. But I do not think beasts will be worth much. Actually, they could be sold as food. And they're worth about that much. So, dwarf snowy Bulborbs, or whatever they're called, they're only going to be worth 2 Pokos. Anyway, Citrus Lump is basically a smushed orange. It's worth 180 Pokos, though. Isn't that something? But yeah, you can get a total of 8 from the carcasses and from the treasures, so it's a pretty good buff. We're actually almost 10% of the way done with the depth, which is pretty funny. So in caves, when you're going from one sub-level to the next, as long as your Pikmin are around, they will follow you into the next sub-level. It's just, if a Pikmin dies, obviously it can't follow you that way, so you have a bit more of room for error in the caves, in a sense. In a sense, because while it's very easy to reset individual sub-levels, and thus it's pretty impossible to lose Pikmin if you use that, it can still be annoying. More so in the later half of the game, rather than this first half. I'll let you guys know this ahead of time. Losing the 2 Pikmin to that Bulborb rarely happens for me. It's usually an anomaly, truth be told. But since it's not going to be that big of a deal, I don't really care. So we'll still be fine for our purposes. So this is the final floor of the Emergence Cave. I know, only 2 floors. Wait, it's called floor here, but sub-level. Okay, same difference, I guess. Same drill with any other small billboards. Just throw until you've throw them on the back until they're defeated. Basically, takes a long time to get the carcasses back. But I guess while they're doing that, let's go ahead and examine this thing. Mostly because we're actually not going to be able to collect it right now. It's inconceivable that such an immense object has been buried here for so long. The design on the outer shell resembles the surface of the planet as seen from space. Beep, beep. Perhaps this can be used for something other than salvage. But how will we ever lift it? I fear that even 100 red Pikmin will be unable to lift it. Beep, beep. Yeah, so let's toss one Pikmin at it, and yeah, for some reason this thing is saying we need 101 Pikmin, even though the limit is 100. Now, that's probably got some of your thinkers thinking. So is this meant to not be collected? Is this a troll or something like that? Well, not exactly. Not exactly. Pikmin 2 introduces 2 new Pikmin species. And one of them is pretty imminent, actually. So, before we get there, though, let's try and defeat all the enemies that we can, though. That way, we don't have to worry about those too much. Not too terribly a lot of these enemies, though, because this is the beginning of the game. Of course, there's not going to be that many. Not going to be a lot of threats. And we can go ahead and get most of these guys on these carcasses to take them back. Take them back. Take them. Wait. Alright, well, there's still a couple more there. I thought, oh yeah, we got this one. So, yeah, let's put some buds on that one if we can. And yeah, we're gonna leave them to their devices. Let's head back this way. I actually want to separate right here. I think I want Louie to go back to the pod, as it were, so he can recollect the Pikmin and bring them back to Olimar, even though it's not going to save that much time. It mostly just saves Olimar having to make a trip himself. But anyways, let's advance forward, and lo and behold. So you may remember Candy Pop Buds from the original Pikmin, that when you throw Pikmin into them, they change into a different color. In the original, it was just red, blue, and yellow. Or more relevant, really just blue and yellow for one ship part. But these Candy Pop Buds are purple. Kind of a dark purple. Which implies that we will be able to turn our red Pikmin into a purple Pikmin. So, yeah. But I don't want to throw our buds in there, so let's do this. Much better. Because when you throw leaf Pikmin into the flower, into the Candy Pop Bug, they pop out as leaves. And it's so tempting to let them grow into flowers. In fact, I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. And we're back just in time to get all the flowers situated. And let's pluck our first Pikmin. First purple Pikmin. Yeah. First new Pikmin type with Pikmin 2. I like these Pikmin a lot. I probably shouldn't, but I do.
Amazing. A purple Pikmin. It has hair, and it's quite stocky. It seems very heavy and strong. Beep, beep. This kind of Pikmin was not mentioned in your report, Olimar. It must be an entirely new type. Beep. Transforming Pikmin by tossing them into flowers. Intriguing. Perhaps there are others.
Could be. Alright, yeah. First new Pikmin species of the game. Kind of funny we're getting these before any other returning colors, potentially, but I guess it is what it is there. So now we have, by the way, this is now with the start pause button instead of the Y button like in the original. Now the Y button is swapping captains, so that might throw you off a little bit. We have 58 red and 10 purple. What if I told you a secret? We're not going to go get that globe just yet. So this is how you exit a cave while being able to keep everything you collect. This is a geyser.
Astounding! Water is shooting out of this geyser with incredible force.
Sensors indicate it has enough power to launch you into the air. Approach it and try. So if you try to exit a cave through any other means, the alternative, by the way, is pausing.
going to the menu with R, and you can give up and escape. But if you do that, you abandon all of the treasure that you collected up to this point. But not your Pikmin, I'm pretty sure. If that is the case, all I can say to that is wow. So, we will be escaping with the treasure we currently have, including the treasure from the enemy carcasses. So the reason for this is twofold. One, you can get more treasures from enemies because they'll regenerate when you go back into the emergence cave. And yeah, and look at that, some pellet posies have regenerated as well. I don't know how much of that we'll be taking advantage of though. And you get a cutscene. But we didn't collect the globe, so we won't be forced to advance to day 3. That's how it works. You have successfully returned to the planet's surface. Excellent decision-making, gentlemen. Beat. We must celebrate your first successful spelunking expedition. You've gathered a large amount of data that needs in-depth analysis. I shall send a report back to the President tonight detailing your progress. Whoa, jumping the gun a bit ahead here. Aren't you, Ship? Because we still got some stuff to do here. So we're gonna collect some more posies to grow the red Pikmin numbers because why not? We do still have kind of a limited time. I'm gonna try and do is I was thinking about maybe I could leave one of the captains by the cave entrance, and that might be alright. But honestly, I'm not too sure. So purple Pikmin, when they carry something in the overworld to the onion, they don't have an onion. Which might be interesting for some of you to realize. Purple Pikmin do not have an onion above ground. So you might be wondering, how do you store and reclaim purple Pikmin? To do this, you go to the ship. And that's how you do it. The purple Pikmin are stored in the ship. Purple Pikmin can only be obtained by tossing other Pikmin into purple candy pop buds, or flowers, inside of caves. They will never be found above ground. I believe that's going to be good enough for red Pikmin, because if we go out any further, it would probably be more time, lost. So we'll be going back in with 64 reds and 10 purples. That's irrelevant, though. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump cut from here to where we were in the emergence cave. See you guys then. And we're back. I know what you might be thinking. Wait, didn't we already get 10 purple Pikmin? You can get 10 more in the emergence cave. But no more, because if you try to get more than 20, the purple candy pop buds here do not respawn, unfortunately. So, this is a pretty hot tip to keep in mind. That way you leave the Valley of Repose with 20 purple Pikmin. And be patient, let them become flowers this time, because you don't have access to nectar yet. That's going to come later in the playthrough. Unfortunately. And we can put all of our Pikmin onto the globe finally and just have them hoist this gigantic treasure to the research pod. Well, the pod of the Hokate freight ship. Which I'm pretty sure doesn't have a proper name. If it does, I might have to look that up on my own time in between episodes. But once we get this globe, we are actually going to be pretty much done for this episode. Next time it's going to be a new-ish place. You'll see what I mean. You'll see what I mean. But I'd say we did a pretty good job. We only lost 2 red Pikmin. As long as it's a red Pikmin and not a purple Pikmin, I'm going to say this now. If I lose a purple Pikmin, I'm going to have to reset. For a very good reason. A reason that actually won't be clear for many episodes. But you will see. There is a device resembling a microchip embedded inside this sphere, retrieving data. Error. I can only decode a portion of the data, but I did retrieve new geographic charts. I will input this data into my planetary database and name it the Sphere Chart. Press start to contact me next as the Explorer Kit. Now that we have this new data, you should explore the decoded territory tomorrow. So this is how you unlock new areas. You find globes, and it'll take you to a new location. You can obviously tell that that's only half of a globe, so you're going to have to find the other half of the globe later on. So, yeah. But I'm done. I already said this, but Pikmin 2's bread and butter are these caves. There's overworld stuff to do, of course, but that is minuscule compared to the amount of time you'll be spending in these caves in Pikmin 2. For better or for worse. I honestly enjoy the caves, but I'm okay with this being a one-time thing rather than something they do, again. You know, it gives Pikmin 2 more of a unique identity in the series, which can only be a good thing. So it can be a bit divisive for some, if you really like the time limit for some reason, but Pikmin 2 has a lot of improvements in other ways that more than makes up for it, I think. At any rate, though, we're done with the Emergence Cave. Only 3 treasures. That is not the norm. Caves will usually contain a lot more than 3. That was the tutorial cave, so what do you expect? The pellet posies regenerate, but by collecting the half of the globe, you're automatically forced to end the day. Olimar and Louie, since you'll explore a new area tomorrow, today's work is done. What? You still want to work? Unacceptable. You may not realize it, but you're exhausted. Oddly enough, I kinda know that feeling. You should take a much-needed rest, as you have all the time you need to collect treasure. Well, hey, it said it. You have all the time you need. Even though it would have made sense to have a time limit with the depth, you know what I mean? Because you don't want to let depths just sit there. Haste makes waste, so take it slow and steady. I mean, yeah, that's the mantra of Pikmin 2. They figured people got stressed out from time limit in Pikmin 1, so they did away with it entirely, except for, from a day to day. You still got a time limit. You still have a limit to how long you stay in the overworld, because night comes eventually. Although it kind of makes you wonder why they even bother, especially because with how much of a focus there is on caves, and the caves, they do not pass time at all in the overworld. I don't know if you noticed, but we went in the Emergence Cave, we spent some time there, we came back, and the clock was in the same position. It's very strange. But at any rate, yeah, you get a little screen, so in addition to the 3 we got from the cave, we also got the utter scrap above ground, which is worth keeping in mind, because there are overworld treasures to collect in Pikmin 2 as well. Gotta keep that in mind. And this is how you access your death total. Hopefully, we get a lot less than in Pikmin 1, because like I said, it's mostly your deaths in Pikmin 1 will probably be due to glitches. But in Pikmin 2, if you lose a Pikmin, it's probably your fault. And I accept that I unfortunately lost 2 red Pikmin, but I plan to make up for it. Baby steps first, Oliver. Plan well, and don't worry about me. Our debt is with happy Hocotate savings and loan, after all. Besides, there's nothing left to repossess. Ha, ha, ha. So, yeah. And you can actually go back and look at previous emails. They look a little muted, but you can still read them.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Pikmin 2! Last time we got things started in the Valley of Repose by doing the first 2 days, and in today's episode we're going to be moving on to a new-ish location, the Awakening Wood. Before that though, why don't we head back over to the Piclopedia and maybe check out some of the new entries. So yes, the Spotty Bulborb has now been changed to the Red Bulborb. And they're just snow bulborbs, which I find interesting. Violet candy pop bud, and a random plant called a clover. Yep, indeed. Some new treasure entries for the citrus lump, utter scrap. You'll notice that the treasures are separated by color. That's because treasures are organized into larger themes, or smaller themes, I guess, or larger groups, I should say. At any rate, since we did look at the entry for Dwarf Red Bulborb, let's look at the entry for the adult. While throwing some Pick carrots because, yeah, it'll wake it up. Red Bulborb, Oculus Gaguyami rosus, Grubdug family. This large organism has the family with familiar mandibles and gradomorphology of the Grubdug family, as well as the characteristic bulging eyes. As with most grub dogs, the creature's cranium comprises half of its total length and girth, showing a scarlet abdomen with white spots. This creature is primarily nocturnal, choosing to prey upon smaller creatures returning to their nests, Originally classified as the spotty bulborb, further research has reclassified this species as the red bulborb. Subspecies of varied colors have recently been discovered, but academics are divided into two rival camps over how to handle their classification. So that explains the name change, I guess. And here I thought it was some other reason. At any rate, I'm not going to be going over every single Picklepedia entry because that will really add up the time like nothing else. So we're going to start day 3 of Pikmin 2, episode 2 of the Let's Play though, but this is day 3, that's going to get desynced quick. The Awakening Wood. Now what's interesting about the Awakening Wood is that it may or may not bear a resemblance to the Forest of Hope from the original Pikmin. That's because some areas in Pikmin 2 are actually the same areas from Pikmin 1, but since some time has passed between games, there's going to be some differences here and there. Good morning, beep beep. It should please you to know the purple Pikmin are lodged safely in my hull, beep. The confines of my interior seem to suit them perfectly, though they do occasionally tickle me. Stand in the ring of light below me and press A to call the purple Pikmin out. Yes, I briefly went over this towards the end of the last episode, but purple Pikmin are stored inside of the ship. And I'm just going to call it the ship because I don't really have a proper name for it otherwise. And since we only have red and purple Pikmin, we may as well just get them all out here and just have them start doing stuff. So at any rate, we are in the overworld of the Awakening Wood, and there's going to be some stuff to do. But in Pikmin 2... Oh yeah, there's for some reason like a notification here. Louis has Olimar instructed you on the peculiarities of the Pikmin creatures. Beep. The Pikmin form groups based on color when disbanded with X. Grabbing Pikmin with A will also cause them to group by color. After grabbing a Pikmin, I was just about to go over this, but yes, Pikmin 2 is the one that adds the ability to swap between the different colors of Pikmin with the D-pad. You can even swap between leaves and buds and flowers and all that stuff. At any rate, there's some grass over here. We're going to leave the purple Pikmin there to its devices because we got some enemies to take care of over here. Left and right on the D-pad will change the Pikmin color. Up and down on the D-pad will change the rank, I guess you could say. Let me tell ya, purple Pikmin, they make mincemeat of the red bulborbs. You can also call them adult bulborbs for simplicity's sake, if you want, but yeah. So purple Pikmin will carry objects. One purple Pikmin has the strength of 10 regular Pikmin of any color, but they move a little slow. So that's kind of why we're going to have to, like, do this. And the only color Pikmin we have is red, so we may as well let the reds have the spoils here. Thankfully, things should be moving a lot quicker, as it looks like we're going to be harvesting some nectar. Thankfully. Since purple Pikmin don't have onions above ground, they'll actually randomly take carcasses to any color Pikmin you have above ground, but since currently you only have access to red Pikmin, it basically means that as far as the overworld enemy carcass extraction process is concerned, purple Pikmin are red Pikmin. And that strawberry we collected, known as the Sunseed Berry, gives us 170 Pokos. And we are officially more than 10% done with the debt recovery. Which is pretty good considering we're still in the beginning of the game, more or less. We're still in the early game of Pikmin 2, so yeah. And it looks like we hit the limit of Pikmin. Supposedly? Ah. Olima, we have a problem. The onion has ceased ejecting seeds. Is it malfunctioning? Interesting. It now seems the number of life forms within the onion has increased. Did you note that no more than 100 Pikmin will venture into the planet at once? But I currently observe only 95 on the surface. Could there be wild Pikmin somewhere? Ah, now there is an astute observation. So, there are 100 Pikmin on the map, but you can only hold on to 95 right now. And there's actually a very good reason for this. It's mildly annoying, but once you figure it out, you'll be like, oh, eventually that'll be resolved. It's one of those kind of situations, but we got plenty of nectar here, and we got plenty of hungry Pikmin. So, let's take advantage of this and have them all feed on the nectar. And finally, we have access to flower Pikmin without leaving them in the ground and having to wait for them to naturally get nectared up. You'll only really have to do that if you want to get flower Pikmin before this point. You only have to do it during the Valley of Repose, thankfully. So, yeah. And much like in the original Pikmin, the flowers have the same bonuses. They basically do everything faster and stronger. They hit harder, so on and so forth. It's looking like we might need a little more nectar. I don't know if that got them all, but this should be good enough for now. Actually, it looks like they're all flowered up. Got some more pellets over here, though. Looks like we got some shear grubs, female shear grubs. May as well keep adding to the numbers, because now we're at a point where, since we are at the max capacity, Pikmin will add to the onion, and they won't produce any seeds that we have to pluck, which is actually very useful. One minor change for shear grubs in Pikmin 2 from 1 is that they no longer... They can be carried with one Pikmin only. You can't put 2 on them for whatever reason, if that's what you want to do. Honey Wisps return from the original game as well. We are going to have... Let's see. I think I want to have our purples working on this wall, because this wall is going to take a while to take down. And we want to use some of our red Pikmin on these new plants. New plant-looking things. I think we'll put about 30... no, I think something like that's good enough. And we'll put about 30-ish on this one as well. Because, yeah. And we're going to put some more Pikmin on the wall, as it were. Because we want the wall taken down, because we need to take down the wall in order to have access to some caves that we can find in the Awakening Woods. There's actually going to be 2 caves of concern for our first proper visit here. I know what you might be thinking, but it will all be explained in due time. In due time. At any rate, the berries that we can extract from those plants are actually very useful, because eventually they can be used to create something neat. Astounding! This red berry contains an ultra-spicy essence. It does not appear to have any monetary value, but I shall research potential uses for it. Beep! Bring me another specimen. Specifically, you need to bring 10 berries to the ship before it'll start doing something with it. But it looks like it's not going to take that long, because that should be the last berry right there. And conveniently, one plant grows 5 berries, and there are 2 plants. So you can easily get your first dose of, well, hold on a minute. A powerful potion, the Ultra Spicy Spray. First introduced here in Pikmin 2. So this spray, when activated, will actually buff all of your Pikmin. It'll make them faster, and it'll make them stronger as well. So, yeah, that can be pretty neat. And I'm pretty sure soon after you get the first spray, the berries should regenerate. At least that's what I seem to remember happening. But it looks like they're not really regenerating right now. Never mind, I spoke too soon. So let's go ahead and put some more Pikmin on here. We want to try and collect some sprays, because obviously it'll be useful. But we are still concerned about the wall. I know what you might be thinking. Why don't we use the spray to take down the wall? Well, because we're still making good time. Because we're not even halfway through the day. Pikmin 2 is a game that doesn't really force you to rush. Unless you're speedrunning. Or if you're trying to do a minimum day run, which I think I have tried before. And it's fun. It's just, ultimately, you're going to be thinking, like, what's the point? Because there's no incentive, per se, to finish Pikmin 2 faster than you normally would, you know? Get it? Wood? As an Awakening Wood? Oh, man, I killed myself. I really did. But, yeah, the Awakening Wood is basically the Forest of Hope, but from a different perspective, and there are some changes to the landscape, as it were. It looks like some things may have just been straight up moved around. Like that ledge over there reminds you of the ledge where the snagger with the Geiger counter was from Pikmin 1, right? In fact, it seems like the area might have shrunk somewhat. At any rate, the wall is taken down, and we still have the 2 sprays we got. And say hello to a new enemy, the Cloaking Burrownet, I think it's called. Easily killed with purple Pikmin. That's going to be a recurring theme, by the way. Let's toss a Pikmin there, because this is another new enemy, the Creeping Chrysanthemum. An enemy that tries to hide in the ground, and, well, also easily dispatched with purple Pikmin. There's also this paper bag here, which requires us to use 20 purple Pikmin to smush down. Which we can do because we got all the purple Pikmin from the Emergence Cave. Now, wouldn't you know it? So we are definitely going to be doing that. We're going to be using purple Pikmin to kill this other Cloaking Burronet really easily. Sometimes the Cloaking Burronet will get lucky and attack anyway, which is kind of funny. We will go ahead and collect all of the spoils here, just to get them out of the way. But we actually have access to 2 caves now since we decided to get, well, I decided to get some more purple Pikmin at the Emergence Cave, which is going to be very, very convenient, let me tell you. And the recommended cave to do first is the one that's going to be all the way over there where the Extraordinary Bolt used to be in Pikmin 1. But I'm actually kind of tempted to go to another one first because, well, you'll see why. You will see why. Although it may come to bite me on the butt. I don't know. Because going to the other cave first... You know what? We are going to go to the other cave first. Because I really want to get a specific treasure. And I'm wondering if we can get a 3rd spray while we're at it. I think we have the time to do it. But it might be a little clutch. So, yeah. Might be a little clutch. I don't know. But having the more ultra spicy sprays, the better. The more sprays in general. Because this isn't the only kind of spray you'll have access to in Pikmin 2. It's just the first one. And it's pretty noteworthy because of that. So, yeah. It looks like we're barely going to have enough time. I wouldn't get more than 3. Because that might be really cutting into time. I mean, yeah, I know. There isn't really a time limit. But I do want to try and keep a good pace here. And I do kind of want to try and knock out both caves in the same day. Because I know it's possible. Not because I have to do it like that. But because I want to. So I have done both ways. I mostly go to the one on the left over here first, and then the one to the right. By the way, it's a treasure over there, but we need a certain kind of Pikmin that we don't have access to right now. And we won't have access to for a little while. There's a wall over there protected by some sort of gas cloud. We will worry about that when the time comes, let me tell you. Here's going to be our second cave. Biological sensors are reacting violently. The readings are ominous. A beast of unknown power lurks in these depths. A large Pikmin group would be reassuring. Well, it's a good thing we have pretty much as many Pikmin as we can get, which is 95 right now, due to shenanigans above ground. The ship will mention that having flame-resistant Pikmin will be useful in this cave, and I do seem to recall there being at least one floor where that is definitely the case. At any rate, welcome to the Hole of Beasts. As you see underneath the name, there will be dots, and if the dots are filled in with a hazard, that means that that hazard will be a present danger in the cave. We saw a fire icon, so that means fire is a threat in the cave. There are a couple of threats that won't be noted on those dots, but those threats are usually not worth mentioning per se. So they're not. It's just the way it is. And, yeah, for right now, we only have to worry about fire. Red Pikmin are immune to fire, which you may or may not have known because, you might not have been using them for the fire-resistant properties. You may have just been using them as, regular Pikmin, since, you know, they're the only Pikmin we have access... Well, the only regular Pikmin we have access to. I would consider purple Pikmin to be, like, a premium of sorts. I know it's kind of weird to say, but yeah, considering their limited availability, you can only have as many purples as you have reds, because you got to convert reds to purples, as it were. We're going to try and be very careful here with purples to try and kill sheer grubs, which there are plenty of. You want to be very careful about the male sheer grubs, as always, because they can potentially instantly kill Pikmin, of course. The female sheer grubs that are kind of bald looking, they don't kill Pikmin, thankfully. So those are just a minor distraction at worst. And I believe there's only one treasure on this floor, but I want to make sure that the sheer grubs are taken care of, and we can take the sheer grub bodies back for extraction. And I think that's all of the sheer grubs. When it comes to caves, you can never be too sure. Alright, we'll take that treasure back, and hopefully that should be it. There's actually a little sound that is made letting you know that you've gotten all the treasure. It's a bit hard to discern, especially when you're doing the setup like I'm doing. But this treasure is kind of interesting because it kind of looks like a D-pad, doesn't it? In fact, one could say this is specifically a GameCube D-pad. If you were to open up the controller and extract the part, it would probably look something like this, but nowhere near as rusted. Okay, I was trying to listen for a sound, and I think I heard it. So, we're going to go ahead and exit this floor. We got a lot of sheer grub carcasses, and we got that treasure. We still got 3 ultra spicy sprays. Very good. Very good. So let's go ahead and go to the second sub-level, or the second floor. I don't know, it seems to be inconsistent. It seems like it's only going to recall it a floor if you're on the final one. But anyway, same difference. Sub-level 2 of the Whole Beast has no treasures. But if you did not get 20 purple Pikmin in the Emergence Cave like I did, there will be, I think, 1 or 2 extra violet candy pop-ups here that you can use to get 20 purple Pikmin. That way you're able to crush down the paper bag in the Awakening Wood and get to the other cave. But if you did what I did, you can actually get to the other cave first. I guess you can call that sequence breaking, but it doesn't really save that much time, to be honest, so, you know, a minor sequence break, I guess you can call it. But, yeah, this floor is basically meant to be kind of a recovery floor. In fact, I think those little nooks right there are where the flowers would have spawned if you didn't get them in the Emergence Cave, so there's your backup option, but this is otherwise a completely optional floor, and if I was doing a no commentary long play of this, I probably would have cut that floor out entirely because it serves no real purpose. But I'll leave it in there for the Let's Play because it's like, what was that, a minute at worst? Anyway, sub-level 3 is going to be a fire floor, I believe. Yes, it is. But here's the funny thing about purple Pikmin and flame geysers. Well, if you aim properly, they can kind of just, you know, destroy the geysers. That's the idea anyway, but sometimes things don't quite work out that way. But yeah, we are literally using purple Pikmin not for their intended purpose, because it turns out purple Pikmin can do a lot more than just instantly destroy enemies. But there actually is kind of an easier way to deal with the fire geysers than that. You can literally just use red Pikmin to group up on them and just do that, and you don't even have to like wait for any timing or anything like that. So it's probably generally better to just use red Pikmin for the geysers. But it is kind of funny that you can destroy the flame geysers with purple Pikmin anyway, because, you know, people complain, oh god, purple Pikmin, they're broken, they can do like anything. They can even do stuff like that. Why do you need other Pikmin if you can just do everything with purples? And there is some truth to that statement, but at the same time, the purple Pikmin may not always be the most efficient options. Just probably the funniest. And, I mean, multi-purpose Pikmin are pretty convenient. So, I'm not necessarily defending how broken purple Pikmin are. I'm just saying that people are prone to hyperbole. Although, the hyperbole is somewhat understandable because, let's face it, purple Pikmin, they're kind of broken. Kinda, which is why they had to be nerfed in future Pikmin games. But anyways, there's only going to be 2 treasures on this floor, so I know we've already been through 3 floors and we only have 3 treasures because 1 floor was a freebie, or didn't have nothing going on. Here we have the Strife Monolith, which kind of looks like a dessert. It's probably just a monolith of some sort, maybe? I don't know. Looks interesting enough. It seems like the fruit slices or whatever those were kind of forming an open box or a treasure chest of some sort. And this is actually a Famicom disc thing, I think. A Famicom disc for the Famicom disc computer, family computer, something like that. The Cosmic Archive. By the way, you notice these treasures are worth a lot of Pokos? Yeah. You kind of want to enjoy that while it lasts, because I find that the deeper we go into Pikmin 2, for whatever reason, the treasures in general become less and less valuable. You're also going to be finding a higher quantity of treasures throughout the adventure. In later caves, I should say, so it kind of evens out for the most part, but it's still kind of weird, because there's going to be some items you collect later on where you're going to be like, oh, that should definitely be worth more than that. But it's probably not going to pan out like that. At any rate, this floor is going to have some fire, but also some bulb orbs, which you can easily kill with purple Pikmin. That was a pretty good spawn to get that treasure right there, actually. So, kind of tempted to just take our reds, because there's actually a violet candy pop not bud, what am I talking about? On this floor, and we do want to get that, because that will get us a couple of more, 5 more purple Pikmin. So we do want to try and track that down. I guess we'll have Louie in charge of the purples, and I guess we'll, like, I don't know, we'll do that, I guess, and have Louie over here while Olimar's off doing elsewhere, because at least there's some multitasking going on. So yeah, having 2 captains doesn't make multitasking, like, dramatically better than the original Pikmin, but it is definitely a step in the right direction for multitasking enhancement, I should say. Alright, flame geysers, take care of those, even though, what's even the point? So, that's going to be one treasure. We're about to get another treasure. It's literally on our face. This is a Game & Watch, though. But it's been renamed to the Dream Architect, which I think is actually a really good rename. But yeah, you can rotate the treasures, which is pretty nice. And yeah, this is just a Game & Watch. It doesn't seem to work, but it is a Game & Watch. I know what you might be thinking. Isn't Game & Watch the name of that character from Smash Brothers? Yes. But that character is taken straight from the Game & Watch series of consoles, handheld consoles. Basically the first Nintendo handheld console, actually. But yeah, there's always going to be a Violet Candy Pop bud here in the Hole of Beast. This one does regenerate. It does, I promise you. But since there's only one and you only get 5, I wouldn't recommend it as a grinding spot per se. And this is the Luck Wafer, which is actually a playing card from Nintendo's days of making playing cards, which predates their video game making history. We're playing Pikmin 2, and we're also somehow getting like a mini history lesson on Nintendo stuff. It's actually kind of funny. Oh, these enemies are Mitites. They appear randomly. And when they do, they scare Pikmin. Like you wouldn't believe. Like, look at this. They're all just freaking out over here. But thankfully, they also drop a lot of nectar. And any bodies you kill, by the way, purple Pikmin are very good for this because their shockwaves apparently count as killing them, which is pretty neat. So, yeah, you pretty much just kill a bunch of enemies for free. We still got eggs here. Sometimes Mitites will generate from eggs. It's all random. Although I think maybe that one instance of Mitites might have been scripted. I don't know. At any rate, that should be all the treasure on this floor. And just double check, we are +5 on the purple Pikmin count. Now we're at 25 purple Pikmin, which is a very good number. We are actually 25% of the way to the number that we want for purple Pikmin. Consider that to be a rough hint. And now we're on the final floor of the Hole of Beasts, which has an interesting looking design here as we land. Like, look at that. What is this? It looks like... Are those Bulborb eyes? Oh, that's interesting. And, oh. What is this I'm looking at over here? Well, if you turn around here, you could see a face. A sleeping face. A familiar sleeping face, actually. Throw a bunch of Pikmin onto it, and, well... You're going to be doing a lot of damage. Say hello to the Empress Bulblax. And yes, it is somewhat related to the Emperor Bulblax from the original Pikmin. This is the first proper boss of the game. Although it's not going to be particularly difficult. Basically, you throw a bunch of Pikmin onto it, you have them attack, and when you see that the Empress is about to try and shake them off, you whistle them back, let the Empress roll back and forth. The Empress Bulblax's roll attack can kill Pikmin instantly, and severely hurt your captain, so you definitely don't want to risk it, but the Empress will roll back and forth a couple times. You want to be careful where you throw, though, because it can be kind of hard to reclaim your Pikmin, but yeah, this is a pretty easy fight for now. I mean, it's the beginning of the game. It's not supposed to really be that difficult, I would think. It's a little time-consuming, though, because it's going to take a little while to get the Empress drained of health, as it were. But I'm sure it is possible to get her health drained really quickly. but you definitely don't want the Pikmin to be shaken off by the Empress because they can go all over the place, including to the sides where they will get squished, and we don't want to lose Pikmin during the caves. At the very least, we don't want to lose purple Pikmin, since they are hard to replace. Very difficult to replace. And there we go. Probably not the fastest that she could have been knocked out, but it should be good enough. Let's go ahead and get Pikmin on the carcass, and there's our treasure. Love tester. How bizarre. This device is emitting black light. It must have been ingested by that creature. What an absolutely repulsive life form. Our return to Hakatate cannot come soon enough. Well, anyway, this is a love tester, which apparently is a really old toy from many decades ago. Not sure if this was something that Nintendo made or something that was just in Japan or whatever, but wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo had a hand in it, considering it's in Pikmin 2 as a treasure, so that might actually be a dead giveaway. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. At any rate, though, the important thing is that this love tester is actually an upgrade, and it'll give us access to a really useful ability. It's also called the prototype detector, because it's detecting something. This contraption seems to react when it approaches treasure. I will connect it to my radar. Processing complete. The treasure gauge is now fully operational. It will now appear on your monitor. The needle will move right as you approach treasure. So now we have access to a treasure gauge. Every time you collect all the treasure, it will fade out and do that little sparkle. Without that, you have to rely on a sound that I was trying to listen for earlier. So I could have done this cave later on. There's 2 caves we have access to. We're about to go to the other one now. I could have done this one second, but considering I'm doing a live Let's Play, I just figured, why increase the risk of me missing a treasure? So I just didn't feel the need to do that. So there are only 6 treasures in the Hole of Beasts. I think that's what it was called? The Hole of Beasts. Twice as many as the Emergence Cave, so it's a pretty big bump up there, but yeah, we're all done with that. And we are almost 25% done with the depth. We're over 20% now, 1/5 of the way.